All right, let's jump right in. We're going to tackle a question that you've probably noticed your whole life. Why is it that almost everywhere in the world, and throughout all of history, women just seem to live longer than men?
And you know, this isn't some modern trend. It's not about lifestyles or 21st century medicine. This is a fundamental biological pattern that's held true for centuries. So let's go on a bit of a mission, shall we? Let's uncover the clues behind this fascinating human reality.
I mean, the sheer consistency of this gap is what's so striking. It doesn't matter if you look at the US with its super high life expectancy or a country like Chad where the average is much lower, the pattern holds. Women consistently have an edge of several years. This is no fluke. It's a global phenomenon for sure.
And this pattern, it runs deep into history. We've got really reliable data from Sweden that shows back in 1800, when lifespans were just tragically short for everybody, women still outlived men. And today, even as our overall life expectancy has just soared, that gap is still there.
You know, it's such a consistent thing that the source material we're looking at today even has this witty observation. It's almost like women are born with this biological bonus, this extra time. So the real question is, where does it come from? Let's start digging for clues.
So our first big clue lies in the very rhythm of life itself, the heartbeat. It turns out the female body has this really unique way of keeping its own heart in shape.
20%? That's a big number. During certain parts of her menstrual cycle, and especially during pregnancy, a woman's heart rate can jump by that much. So, what does that recurring spike in heart rate actually do for her long-term health?
Well, this recurring increase, it acts like a light, regular exercise for the cardiovascular system. Some researchers have even called it the jogging female heart. This built-in kind of low-grade workout helps protect the heart, and that leads to way lower rates of fatal heart disease in women before they reach menopause.
Okay, let's move on to our next clue. We're going from the circulatory system right down to our fundamental genetic blueprint. It really comes down to a simple but super powerful genetic difference. See, women have two X chromosomes. Men have one X and one Y. That second X chromosome, it acts as a biological backup. If a gene on one X has some kind of defect, the other one can often provide a healthy, working copy. Men, they just don't have that genetic safety net, and that leaves them more vulnerable to certain problems as they get older.
And this brings us to our third clue, which might just be the most powerful one of all: the huge impact of female hormones, especially estrogen. Think of it like a multi-purpose protective shield that's working at the cellular level.
Okay, to get this, we first need to talk about telomeres. Just picture the little plastic tips on your shoelaces, right? They protect your chromosomes. But every single time your cells divide, these telomeres get a little bit shorter. And eventually, they get so short that the cell just stops dividing correctly. And that, right there, is literally the process of aging.
And this is where estrogen is the hero of the story. Research shows it actually helps preserve the length of these telomeres. It slows down that shortening process. So what does that mean? It means that on a cellular level, women's biological clocks just seem to tick a little bit more slowly than men's.
But estrogen's protective power doesn't stop there. Nope, it also helps fight another key driver of aging, these things called free radicals. You can think of them as these renegade molecules that are just bouncing around inside our bodies, damaging our cells, our DNA, our proteins, kind of like a form of cellular rust.
And estrogen is a fantastic natural antioxidant. It actively cleans up that cellular rust. This is actually backed by animal studies. When scientists removed ovaries, the free radical levels just skyrocketed and lifespans got shorter. But estrogen also helps promote artery health and boost good cholesterol, so it's a true multitasking shield against aging.
Okay, so we've seen three major biological advantages for women. But now, the story takes a really fascinating twist. Let's look at this whole mystery from a completely different angle. This question, it reframes everything. Maybe the focus shouldn't be on why women are so resilient, but on why men seem so fragile. And a really remarkable study from Korean history offers a pretty shocking clue. So get this. Researchers analyzed these historical records from Korea's Joseon dynasty, and the findings are just stunning. Eunuchs, these were men who were castrated to serve the royal court, they lived to an average age of 70. Now compare that to the other men of that era. Not even the royalty, with all their privilege and access to care, even reached 50. The eunuchs outlived them all by an incredible 15 to 20 years.
This is startling stuff. This evidence suggests that the main culprit for men's shorter lifespan isn't just the hormone testosterone. It seems the male reproductive organs themselves play a key role in accelerating the whole aging process. It's almost as if men pay this high biological price for their ability to reproduce.
So, where does all this leave us? We've unpacked the biology, we've looked at the data, but it all leads to one final and pretty profound evolutionary puzzle.
So when we piece all these clues together, we get a really powerful biological picture. Women's longevity seems to come from this amazing cocktail of advantages: a heart that's naturally conditioned, a superior genetic backup system, and that incredible protective shield of estrogen.
And all this brings us to the final, really thought-provoking question. If evolution went to all this trouble to grant women a longer, more resilient life, then why did it also give them a much shorter window of time to reproduce compared to men? It's a paradox that science is still trying to figure out. And it's a fascinating mystery to leave you with.